She's sweet, she's salty, she's smart and craves chocolate every day. Here is your host, the Greek goddess of comedy, Ellen Karis.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sweet and Salty with Ellen Karis. I am your host, Ellen Karis, and it is Monday, September 16th, so we're 2024, just in case you're listening to this in 2027. And very excited because, well, what did I tell you? We're going to get guests, all right? It's not going to just be me complaining, kvetching, and all the ranting I do. I said we were going to get guests after the summer. And again, I am delivering. Now, our guest today, right away, I'm just going to tell you, he's Greek. You know, I'm Greek. I support my fellow Greeks. Anytime I can get a Greek on, I do. But of course, we like the Xeni too. And I'm fascinated with this young man because we follow each other on Facebook. I'm not quite sure how we found each other. We're going to find that out if there is a story to be told. But what I find remarkable about him is he is a journalist and he works for digitaljournal.com. And if you go there, it is chock full of articles about everything. I believe his specialty is more entertainment because every time I go to his Facebook page, there is a picture of him with a celebrity. Not just, oh, hey, I interviewed Matthew McConaughey. Like there's a picture with him, with Matthew McConaughey. So anyway, without further ado, allow me to introduce my wonderful guest, Markos Papadatos.
Hi, Ellen Karis.
Oh,
For having me.
how are you? Thank you for doing this. And you were
Pleasure.
so generous. I know you're very busy. And I said, can you do my podcast? And right away you were like, yes, absolutely. So I really, really appreciate it. Markos, Besmo, and we speak a little Greek, but it's okay.
Yeah.
The Xeni know that they can figure it out. So have we ever met in person?
Yeah, I reviewed your show at the brokerage pre-COVID.
Wait, pre-COVID,
I reviewed your comedy club show at the brokerage.
right? Do you remember who I was with? Was I on a lineup, or I mean, I know I didn't do my own show there.
You were the featured, the second to last.
Okay, and then do you remember who the headliner was? Okay,
I gotta go back to my article.
You know, I feel it's funny too because I know we met. Like I felt like we met. I didn't really do the research, as you can see, because we don't do research here on Sweet and Salty with Ellen Karis. But like you would, of course, when you interview a guest. And I realize now the tables are turned, so I'm interviewing you. But I thought I met you.
Yes.
But I couldn't pinpoint exactly where that was.
So at the brokerage in Belmore, and I brought my dad to see a fellow Greek comedian.
Yeah.
Nico. June 30th, 2018, Tom DiDario was the main act.
Oh, Banayamu. That was a long time ago.
Yep.
Wow.
I have the review right here. I found it.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'll have to Google it. It would have been nice had I done that, but I didn't. Oh my gosh, that's so I remember though. I totally remember. So do you live in Long Island? Are
Yes.
you okay. So were you born in Greece?
Lived there for 5 years.
You lived there for 5. Okay.
1994 to 1998.
Okay. So just kind of like take us back. So you grew up in Long Island. Can you tell us what town you grew up in?
Farmingdale.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. And did you go to any of the church and if you didn't, I'm not judging.
Two of them. Hicksville, the one in Holy Trinity in Hicksville, and the one in Babylon and St. Nicholas.
Okay. It's funny. In March, I did a show with a bunch of comedians for the Hicksville Church for the first time. I haven't done the Babylon Church yet.
I was in Washington, D.C. that weekend, so I couldn't go.
Got
Mom
it.
told me about it. I was like, oh, I'm going to miss Kellen.
Yeah. It was fun. It was packed. It was jammed. You know, Friday night, sometimes Friday nights can be iffy and everything.
Just dying to get out after COVID.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a seat to be had. And then I got to say too, let's give a shout out to the Hicksville church. They had like a full bar, but I don't mean just, oh, you beer, wine. Like they were making like Mykonos martinis and like they did it up. They decorated, they have food. Oh my God, there was food all over. It was amazing. It was amazing. A big at the dessert table at the end. It was crazy.
Oh.
But anyway, so what and then when did you become a writer? Did you study journalism in
No, I studied education and there were no teaching jobs. So at the time, I got started in my college newspaper at Queens College.
Oh, see, I'm fascinated by reporters, journalists, and not to make this about me, but I started my career in accounting. I was an accountant. I was a CPA. I have an MBA in finance. I worked on Wall Street. Like it's a completely, different avenue.
I knew the Wall Street part because you mentioned it in your comedy shows.
Yes, of course, because I got to make fun of that. Because had I stayed at that Wall Street job, I would have had 3 houses by now. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Just my husband likes to remind me of that. But I never realized that I loved journalism. And we always read the news in our house. My father, typical Greek man, 3 newspapers, a minimum, right?
Kirica.
Εφημερίδα με το καφέ στο πρωί.
Ελευθεροτυπία.
Right. And then this is like, I mean, this is definitely a Greek thing, but like they would scour the newspaper to look for Greek names. And like my father would be like, oh, Gita, look, Gus Chazotodopoulos robbed a bank, or something, like, Dad, that's not really like a good story. You know what I'm saying? Even I know they're Greek, but like, I don't think we should really connect with people like that,
Right.
And then they would scour the obituaries because so that was another thing, when people used to, but now we just go on Facebook and we find out,
Exactly.
Everybody's health status and,
legacy.com.
Right. Who passed. And honestly, in doing the podcast, and I've been doing this for 9 years, this podcast, it was called Karis Comedy Corner. And then I changed the name a couple of years ago, but it's the same, format. I needed something different. I found that I love interviewing people. I'm tired of talking about myself. I find myself very boring, and I love to find out people's stories and how they began and whatever they're working on and what was their motivation, and that's what you got to do for a living. So how did you go from an education degree to journalism? You said you started with the newspaper, which I feel like a lot of journalists do that. Like it's from college or high school. They worked on the school newspaper, and then
it's funny because high school, they would never publish me.
Because, do you know why?
I was writing country music articles at the time, and in 2001, it was taboo in New York.
Yeah.
They would never do that. And then a few years later, we have a country station, and it's like the #1 market. So I'm like, I was country when country wasn't cool.
Yeah.
So I had the last laugh. I was so proud of myself proving them wrong because they would never publish anything I've ever written. That's why I just had my high school reunion last year, 20 years. Like, out of those 21,000 articles, how many of them were at prep? I'm like, none. 0. They would ever publish me, and everybody was shocked.
Right.
It was Queens College that took me seriously.
What?
It was Queens College that took me seriously.
Bravo. Where Jerry Seinfeld went to school.
Exactly. My favorite. And Fran Drescher and all my favorites. Carole King.
Oh, did they go there too?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And Paul Simon.
That I think I knew. Yeah. So you work on the school newspaper and you get an education degree and you can't find a job, which I have to believe now is different. I'm assuming that we need teachers, you don't know. Okay. And then at least it feels that way. And so then what were your first jobs in journalism?
I interned for a music magazine in Staten Island, Broken Records magazine.
Uh-huh.
I went in 3 weeks. I went from intern to staff writer.
Wow.
And then in 9 months, I became associate editor because I was so quick and so efficient. And then 2 years later, I became a managing editor. But I didn't like that as much because, all the problems went to you.
Right.
Okay. And then after a few years, I'm like, okay, I have the experience now. When I branched out on my own in the digital world, and the rest is history.
Wow. So did you were you a writer just on the side? Did you
Yes,
write
I loved writing
stories and write all kinds of
poetry.
poetry? Well, look at you. You're like a real Renaissance man.
Right.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And during the pandemic, I started writing poems again, and that was like my hobby.
Wow.
The two things I picked up are in the pandemic: vacuuming and writing poetry.
Well, I didn't pick up vacuuming, that's for sure. I haven't dusted my bedroom in
I
a
just love
decade.
seeing the grames, like straight lines and like
Uh,
carpeta.
but your job as a journalist during the pandemic, it was still essential, right? I
Very
mean,
essential.
very
I was busier
essential.
than ever. I was busier than ever during the pandemic because
I can see.
the publicists had to justify their paychecks, so they were sending me stories. Look, there were still songs being released. There was still stuff done virtually.
Right.
We had to write about a lot of things getting canceled, but they were still like it was time for people that I couldn't talk to. They had a time to talk to me because there was nothing else to do.
So with stand-up comedians,
Yeah.
we were the opposite. So in the chain of non-essential people, we were the top of the food chain. Nobody wanted us. So we
Cool.
served no purpose. Ultimately, Zoom comedy shows did, catch on quickly.
I
I did
love
a
those.
bunch of those. I did a bunch of them. You know when I did a bunch of them during the holidays,
Yeah, like
because people
Newton.
usually had Christmas parties. And then these companies, and now they wanted to do something.
Aw,
But I did
that's
so
so
many of those.
cool.
But other than that, our performances are live. That's where what
Okay.
you want to do. I mean, to me, stand-up comedy is live. Even I dare say this, of course, if I ever got a Netflix special, I would jump at the chance. But even when you watch it on TV, streaming, YouTube, whatever, and if you're entertained, that's great, and you laugh, and you get obviously you can tell what the comic does and who they are, but there's still nothing like a live performance, period. Whether it's music, a play. You wouldn't see a play on TV, right? I mean,
Ever.
but I
Never
feel it's the
possible.
same way with stand-up comedy because it's such a connection with the audience.
Thanks.
But your industry was it was like because it was constant because it's always about you,
Right.
right? So now what do you do now? Like what is your focus? Because I like again, in the intro I said celebrity interviews. Do you do other like hard news at all, or you're the entertainment
Music,
guy?
entertainment, sports, and lifestyle. Those four things.
Oh, all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Oh my gosh, that's great. So take me through somebody that you did that was big. I mean, I'm just going to rattle off some names because you have photos with everybody. Sofia Vergara, Dennis Quaid, Zoe
Yeah.
Kravitz, John Voight, a lot of soap opera
You just said him
people.
before, Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey,
The
my
cover story on him.
Oh my God. Okay, all right. So let's just go right to him because he's just the definition of a stud. So what did you interview him for? What was he
His
promoting?
children's book. He had a children's book out last year.
Uh-huh. Oh, he did? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I didn't realize that. And then I know he's got 3 kids and like a
Yeah.
gorgeous wife.
And
Uh,
one of the sons had the photo credits. He sent me the photos I used like from one of the kids that
oh
took of
wow.
him. Yeah.
So I mean, well, first of all, it's not like, you look up Matthew McConaughey's number and then you call him. I mean, you've got to go through layers of people, I would
Yeah.
imagine, to get
Mhm.
to him. So,
Mhm.
like, how does that, are you the one that approached him? Do you approach the celebrities or they approach you? How does
It's a
that
little bit of
work?
both. It's a little bit of both. If they're promoting something, they know I'm reliable. If I say yes, they'll have the story within an hour, so they can count on me.
But that takes years
Yeah,
to
it
build
does.
a reputation like that. I
Mhm.
mean, and you're still very young. So to know that they trust you with that is just
By
incredible.
the time I'm done, they have two lined up for me every time. Like, oh, that went well. Here's two more.
That's usually from the publicist, right?
Yes,
'Cause that's who you
published.
really have to connect with. Yeah.
Always.
So tell us about Matthew. How was he? Was he like, all
He was
right, all
lovely.
right, all right? Or
Lovely,
was he
lovely.
Was
Spoke
he
about the
not?
book and like how even with a children's book, you can learn so many great things.
But he wrote his own book,
Yeah.
which I've yet to
Oh, the green light. The green light.
green
Yeah.
light. It's sort of on my to read list.
Yes.
Definitely at some point. But I thought he was. I remember when he broke out onto the scene, and I'm watching him in the movie Time to Kill, and I remember looking at him going, "This guy's a star."
Remember him in Trisha Yearwood's music video, Walk Away Joe. He played the model, the Joe, the Walk Away Joe. He was in it. He was
Right.
like not even 17, 18, 19 at the time. I don't know.
Yeah, he was destined for stardom. But was he easy to talk to?
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah, he
Yes.
seems that
The only
way.
thing we couldn't talk was about it. This was during the strike last year,
Right.
so I couldn't talk to him about Dallas Buyers Club, about his Oscar win, but everything else we were allowed to talk about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was
It was an interesting time, the strike. So yeah.
the str- I do more comedy than I do acting, but there's like a ripple effect in the entertainment industry, which it just because it affects everybody. I mean, I am SAG, so I was on strike,
Wow.
but that's interesting that he wouldn't talk about it because of that.
But
Because
none
of
of them could. None of them could. None of them could.
Oh, wow. Well, that's all right.
And I
Well,
love this definition of success. Success means still being able to chase your better self. I'm like, wow.
yeah, he's got a lot of those kind of
Nuggets.
philosophies, right? I mean, good for him. Well, that's good. What about
Oh my God, that was
oh,
exactly a year ago. This is crazy.
is it really?
The book came out September 12th, so I think, wow, it's exactly a year ago. Wow, you picked the right date.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was a year old. Wow.
Dennis Quaid? Did you just interview him for the Reagan movie? Was
Yes,
Reagan,
but
Reagan
him I've
movie?
known over the years many times for his
Uh,
music and stuff. So it was my third interview, I think, with him. That was nice.
you know what I find just crazy, for lack of a better word. Dennis Quaid was married to Meg Ryan.
Ryan.
Right,
Yeah,
we're
you told me
talking,
that. I didn't even know.
right, we're talking about it now, right? And in Hollywood, when you reach that level of fame, when you are married to somebody, or you dated somebody, or you had a long relationship with somebody,
Okay.
no matter how long it is, they will always in the article mention that. For example, here's a better example.
Wow.
Jennifer Aniston was married to Brad Pitt over 20 years ago. It's got to be now.
Yeah.
And they were married for, I don't know, I'm going to say like 3-4 years. It wasn't really,
Couple key.
right. Well, yeah, right. And we all know the story, right? I mean, he left her for Angelina Jolie. That's not a secret,
It's a fact.
or a rumor. And then he went on with her and his adopted kids and had kids and they had 6 kids together, bad divorce, this and that, right? So he's like went through a whole thing, and to this day, any article about Jennifer Aniston mentions that she was married to Brad Pitt. And it's like, if I were her, I'd be out of my mind at this point. I'd be like, if you put Brad Pitt's name in my article, I'm never talking to you again.
See, that's the tabloids. I don't do that. They do that for search engine optimization to sell their garbage. I'm the anti-TMZ, so I'm not as rich as them, but I'm peace of mind and everybody's happy with my work and no complaints.
Bravo. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's why they're so open to me because they're not afraid of me that anything that they say is gonna be taken out of context. It's a trust thing. It's a reliability and loyalty. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I have so many questions for you. So and then let me just run through a few other people. You met Valerie Bertinelli. Did you
Yes.
interview her? Did you
Yes.
interview her? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here's somebody. I mean, I grew up.
Speaking of, they'll plug in Eddie Vedder in that.
Right. So Eddie Van Halen, although she does talk about him. They have a son together.
Yes.
So she does talk about him. So that's different. Like where Jennifer Aniston doesn't talk about Brad Pitt, that's, it's one thing if they bring the person up,
I never talk about their personal lives because I don't care. I just promote whatever they're promoting and everybody's happy.
So you're all about the work.
Yeah.
You're all about the work.
That's the whole point. They're talking to me. That's what I want to know about it. How did their book or CD or album or tour come about? I want to see how the work came about, the creative process, and walk me through that. So yeah.
What about Stevie Nicks? Speaking of
my favorite interview ever.
She's the queen. What was that like? What is she like?
The best ever. It was like that was like 4 years ago, exactly this time of year. It was during the pandemic. She had 3 things to promote, like DVDs and documentary stuff, and it was just amazing. She spoke to me. They told me you have about an hour with her. I'm like, an hour? We prepared 10, 11 questions. I didn't think it was, and it was midnight my time because she was in LA. So I was like, okay. And she just spoke to me for 58 minutes, almost an hour and 10 seconds. I'm like, oh my God, this was like more everything I could have ever asked for in life. I could have retired the next day. And
what did she say? Do you remember if she said something that like really stuck with you?
I let her do all the talking. I gave her the floor.
Right.
I was like, okay, it took me 9 hours to write it up, but it was worth it.
She's the queen. I mean, we love the music and all, but we know that behind the scenes, these people led a very not hard life in terms of like they suffered financially, but with all the partying and whatnot, and I mean, she's been very open about that whole thing.
Because we spoke about, I told her I was taking up poetry during the pandemic, and then she read me her new single, which was like poems, because songs are poems, and she read it to me in advance before anybody else. It was like the coolest thing.
Oh wow!
And it's called "Show Me the Way," and it had like the Martin Luther inspired King and stuff. I just love her as a songwriter. Like my favorite song of all time was written by her, "Landslide."
Yeah.
I saw my reflection.
Do you sing?
Yeah.
You're very into music. Wow. Well, listen, she's a legend. That's amazing. What about Zoe Kravitz? Did you get to?
That was a short one for the new movie that they just did. I don't remember.
Okay.
It just came out.
How about
She directed it.
Okay. That's right. I read that.
Channing Tatum one, but she directed it.
That's her fiance. What about Lenny Kravitz? Did you ever interview Lenny Kravitz?
No, I've wanted to, but when I tried last time, he was going through the scandal, so I couldn't. He wasn't doing any interviews.
He had a scandal.
Remember in concert when with the thing you were in a concert, like his pants ripped and then his private parts showed, and then.
Okay, that is not a scandal. Okay, that's a treat. Like that's like.
I couldn't get an interview because he shut it down because it had like they called it whatever gate. It had its own title, and then he made a statement whether it was a violation of his human rights. I'm like, okay.
I always say that if we want to really solve race relations, we should have Lenny Kravitz as president. I think that it would be all of, nobody would be mad at each other. Like everybody would like get along.
I love his music, but yeah, I would love to someday interview him.
Oh my gosh.
I think he's private. I don't think he does that many. So yeah.
Yeah.
Lenny Kravitz.
Any of the Rolling Stones, Beatles, Paul McCartney.
I've tried with no success for Ringo and Paul, but maybe someday.
I'm going to tell you a story. I actually told it on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, but you'll appreciate it.
Cool.
So a bunch of years ago, we were at the Greek parade on Fifth Avenue. We had just marched. I was with my sister and my 3 nieces.
Nice.
And we walked down 79th Street. We're walking down Madison Avenue. And a few blocks in front of this restaurant, my one niece, who at the time I think was like 12, says, oh my gosh, I think I think that's no, because I was like, who are those people looking and whatever. And then I go, I think that's Paul McCartney. And my niece goes, oh, Paul McCartney. Because she was taking music lessons at school. And you're just like, oh, oobla dee, oobla da, whatever. So we walk over there. Somebody was talking to him. His wife was there. The one
Heather?
No, the one he's married to now, Nancy something, who was married to Bruce Blakeman, the county executive, because you live on Long Island. So she was standing there. So anyway, somebody was talking to him. He was talking to him. We come over and it's like, hi, hi. I'm like, hi, I wanted to introduce myself. And, of course, we love you. We love you. We love your music. And then I pointed to my one niece and I said, she's taking music. And so he goes, oh, that's good. She goes, yeah, we're learning oobla dee, oobla da, whatever. He was so nice. He was so
He is. I've heard
right?
good things about him.
So then my other niece, who will remain nameless, had mutra. Okay, she had mutra, grigno, this and that. She was whiny. And so he goes to her. Oh, what do you do? Do you? And she goes, and she just like she completely dissed him. And I'm like, Sophia. So I just said her name. I go, Sophia, what? Paul McCartney is talking to you, And she's like, so he goes, do you dance? And he like tap danced a little. And she's like, no. So I'm like, okay, thank you for your time. We really, thank you so much. So walk away. And I'm like, oh my God. I go, I don't think anybody on the planet has ever dissed Paul McCartney. I'm like, do you know who he is? And she's like, oh, no. He's like, so big deal. You're famous too. I go, no. So you're like, no, you don't understand. Okay. It's not even like apples to elephants. It's like, there's no comparison. Okay.
Superstar.
I'm like dirt on his shoe. This guy is spaghetti. He's one of the most famous people on the planet forever.
Scatharia, the Beatles.
Oh my gosh. He was,
I've done a John Lennon's son, and he was wonderful. Julian Lennon.
So is he a musician also?
Yeah. He sounds exactly like John. Exactly. Same voice.
Wow. Well, I know they look alike. I follow the other one, Sean, on Twitter. Sometimes he likes my tweets. I don't know why, but he just does. What about Emma Stone, who is one of my favorite?
At the Oscars this year I did her.
Wait, so did you go to the Oscars?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you go to the Oscars every year or?
This year was my first time.
And what was that like?
It was good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Very organized. They ran it well.
Uh-huh. What was it like? Were you in the theater?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And was it
You're there with other journalists and they give you a number, and then if you want a question, you press a button, and when they call you, they ask your question. They refer to you, I think, was it number and then outlet, or outlet and name? I forgot what it was, but it was really good.
Wow.
So and then you all got to share your answers. It was nice. It was.
Who did you get to meet anybody sort of like one-on-one or you
asked the question and then they answered it. It was like a telecon. It was like a conference thing.
Got it.
Press conference, and you asked it like that. And like they came to the microphone, they took the questions, like 10 minutes each.
Right.
You all shared the answers because you were approved, and everybody was happy.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Everybody came out except Robert Downey Jr. He went back to his seat.
Oh, really?
Everybody else, all the waiters came and spoke, so that was nice.
Yeah, that's so exciting. It's so are you? Is that like your gig? Like, do you do any of the other award shows?
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I do.
And do you go to Cleveland?
Barclays Center.
Broadway Center.
Barclays Center in Brooklyn.
Oh, Barclay.
Every other year it's in Brooklyn, so I go when it's in New York.
Oh, the ceremony. Okay. Yeah. I was thinking of the museum because I've been to that.
I love that place. I've been there once. It's beautiful.
It's amazing, isn't it? I
could spend all day there, all week there.
I was doing comedy there, and then I went. I took the day and I went over there, and it was amazing. So I saw that you had. What about comedians? I saw a picture of you and Pete Correale.
Yes.
So Pete's very funny. I opened for him once.
Yes.
And he's very funny. He's working now. He opens, I think, for Sebastian on some of his bigger.
So they do the podcast together. So yeah,
I listen to it every week. It's hilarious. Mm-hmm. So not that we don't want anybody not listening to this one, of course, but that one is good too. So tell me, have you ever? Okay, because I'm obsessed with her. Have you ever interviewed Jennifer Lopez?
No.
What is your feeling about, now I realize you said you do, I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it more embellished. Um, when I like someone like her, I don't know, like if you had a scale of like 1 to 100 on the celebrity level, she's like number 3 at this point, or maybe even 2. And in terms of like the media following her and stuff. And look, we know that these things change over time. Years ago it was, Madonna. Not that Madonna doesn't get, followed, but not now. But Jennifer Lopez is like that now. But what is your take? Here's the one question. What is your take? Like every day she is photographed. And obviously, unless you're living under a rock, she remarried Ben Affleck and she filed for divorce. And it's only been a couple of years. And it's just, it's the weirdest thing because they profess their love for each other. And like 2 seconds later, they're getting a divorce. And they're grown-ups. We're not talking about, 2 24-year-olds. I mean, these
Right.
people, they're grown-ups. They've been married a bunch of times. They have kids, they're multi-millionaires. They should sort of know better in a sense. So, but I'm always curious to know, does somebody call the paparazzi and they come and they photograph them? Or is there somebody on the outside, like like let's say they go to a restaurant and somebody.
There's a tip line where you can anonymously tell TMZ stuff and they'll come. Look, they'll be scouting on their front porch lawn and stalk her all day if they would.
Right. I would imagine. Yeah. I mean, I have a whole thing,
In Los Angeles, everybody goes to Craig's because they know they're going to photograph them. The paparazzi are out as you leave
so
the restaurant.
So yesterday, or Saturday, her and Ben Affleck and most of their kids, I think Ben's daughter wasn't there because she's in college, went and had brunch at the Beverly Hills Hotel.
Oh,
which by the way, I don't know if you've ever been. Have you ever
been there last summer? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. I feel like a movie star, but it's a very high profile place. And I'm like, now, did they decide to go there? I mean, they can go any place. They can have a chef flown in and have it at their home. Like they don't have to go out. But like, did they do that on purpose? Because they love all this stuff, or maybe she loves it, he does it. I don't know. Like, what's your take on all that?
She thrives on the attention.
She thrives on the attention.
For sure.
I mean, they know the gym, when she's going to work out,
any news is good news for them because it keeps her. She's a businesswoman. I'm sure she has like fragrances and all that stuff. Everything profits.
Fragrances. She's selling liquor now, which I find interesting because she says she doesn't drink. I mean, she's she's in great shape, and woman certainly doesn't look like she has a drinking problem. He looks like he has a drinking problem. She doesn't. He's like on I know. So I am obsessed with the story. I do follow it because I have no life, but and also like they are so opposite. I want to tell you something. 20 years ago, I said these two people have nothing in common. I mean, they could be very, obviously they're very attracted to each other. I get that. And I totally can understand being attracted to somebody and not having something in common with them. I get that too. But again, at this point, are like, after all that you've been through, they're still sort of like acting that way. I just think it's very strange and just, I don't know, weird. Just the whole thing is just very weird to me.
Bizarre.
Yeah. Really, really, really bizarre. All right. Enough about that. So what's your, like, who is your dream interview that you have not gotten? Or it could be obviously several people.
Oh God. Everybody I've ever said is my dream interview I wound up getting, so it's been good. But I've always wanted to do Tim Tebow, but he hardly does anything.
Oh, really? And then why do you want to interview him?
Ever since I read his book, A Quarterback's Journey, I was like, wow, I love his character, his modesty, and all that. How he helps all these children's hospitals around the world. I'm like, wow, who else would do that? It's like his work ethic. He got the Heisman Trophy. Just love what he stands for, his faith. And then same with Jennifer Lopez. The media always like twists everything around with his faith and stuff. You know how he's
Right.
very religious. So I think that's why he gave up on interviews. So yeah.
Interesting. Anybody else that you're
Uh,
like on
yeah.
your
Oh gosh. Tim Tebow has always been one. Everybody else I've done, to be honest.
who do you have
Share I've always wanted.
Share. Oh my gosh, that would be so
Because
exciting.
her publicists have been able to do Stevie Nicks, Michael Bublé, and then the only one I haven't done from them was Cher. So, but she's been hard. You know, she doesn't do much.
She is coming out, I believe she's writing her memoir.
Oh, good to know.
So I read that someplace. So, then that's obviously when they're going to want publicity, to sell their book.
And all she has to do is Good Morning America or Today's Show, then she's settled.
Have you ever dealt with any of the TV shows at all in your line of work, or has there been any like crossover?
Sometimes, like I would go there to like review like the concert series or
Uh-huh.
Fox and Friends, wherever they invite me, or a lot with the radio stations. But that was pre-COVID. I would go to these different radio stations and cover their events and write up on it, and it was great.
Right,
Meet
right.
a lot of the country artists, pop rock artists. So I can't complain.
So you really like country music?
Yeah, not as much now, but most of my life, yeah. Now
Mhm.
I think I outgrew it a little, but I still like it.
Uh-huh. I mean, you're gonna laugh. I love old disco music, like
Nice. That's it.
70s disco music. And back in August, I was like a third Saturday in August, I was invited and went to Eisenhower Park, and they had disco night. It was a band
Cool.
that sang all the songs, and they were amazing. They were called Disco Unlimited.
Limited, yeah, Disco Unlimited. I like them.
Oh my God. They
Good.
sounded just like the original artists. It was
Yeah, they
crazy.
perform at Mulcahy's a lot. I used to see them at Mulcahy's a lot pre-COVID.
Where's that? Where's Moquette?
Wanta.
Oh, okay. Oh my God. They were so good. And it was packed. Like,
Always that crowd there, yeah.
oh my God. It was
It's
crazy.
very nostalgic and so great. I love how they do like the first half of the song. I don't know any of the songs, but the second half is like all the popular hits.
Right,
Like
right.
Donna Summer, Gloria Gaynor, all the Brick House. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that there's some other disco, like Joe Causey does some stuff and whatever, but I was like, it comes up on my Instagram, but I whenever they're doing it, I think it's the 21st, and I have a show, so
Hmm.
couldn't go, but they had something like in St. George.
I
The
love that
St.
theater.
George-
I love the St. George Theater.
yeah, I've never been there. I'd love to do comedy there. I know they have comedians there, but my
I
challenge,
saw Shaka Khan there a few years ago.
Chaka Khan. Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID. A lot of things you did pre-COVID, right?
Mostly because now I entered the Broadway world and the what's the other world and the restaurant reviews world, so which is new for me the last 2 years.
Uh-huh. So what is it, restaurants where? Any place
Yeah,
or
wherever New York,
uh-huh.
Manhattan, Brooklyn, where else? Long Island, wherever they send me.
Well, speaking of restaurants, I will say that I have never seen such a plethora of Greek restaurants in Long Island, in the city. I mean, when I was growing
In
up,
Florida, I was in Florida this weekend.
yes,
This is,
yes,
oh,
Boynton
this is
Beach,
so good. I'm reviewing it on the spot.
Souvlaki GR, Kima, Lefkis, they're all like opening up.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, it's
Greek
great,
Express. Yeah.
Which one? Greek Express?
Yeah.
So as a matter of fact, I spoke to the owner of Souvlaki GR, and she put me in touch with the people at Boynton. So I want to see if I could do a show there because they actually do events.
Nice.
So do you so restaurant, so do you go to the restaurant and eat and then a pine? I mean, is that like being a food critic?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, dude, that's like the best gig. Like,
It is.
amazing.
It is. Always say I have the best job in the world.
Oh,
I'm the only one that can go from all the genres of music to all the genres of TV, film, horror, soap operas, Hallmark, rom-coms, scary movies, children's music, ska music, bluegrass, country, to restaurants, to Broadway, to everything, you name it.
so this is, I'm assuming this is your full-time gig. This is what you
Yes,
do. This is how you
of
make a
course.
living.
I do 6 to 10 articles a day. I don't have time for anything else.
Right, right. And so how did you get hooked up with digitaljournal.com? How did that
Been
happen?
with them over 12 years. I applied for them and they took me within like a few days. And then I just ran my articles and everybody's happy.
So do you need a journalism degree to write articles?
They just
Like,
asked for samples of my previous work. So I sent them the other magazines that I had, I guess, from Broken Records,
right.
because I had bylines. I also write for the Greek or American press, Hellenic News, Greek News. So yeah, so I've always had samples over the years.
What's your involvement in the Greek community? I mean,
Try to promote their events, the festivals and stuff.
right, right.
And my mom, she's the celebrity in the house, Effie's Bistro.
Who's your mom?
Effie.
Effie.
She's known for her kitchen, Effie's Bistro.
Where is that? Wait, why is that?
It's a house. Effie's Bistro. She's the talented one. She's the cook. My mom's a famous cook.
Oh my God. Wait, does she have her own, what? Do you have her own restaurant or
In
catering?
Greece, in Greece. She has a family restaurant in Greece. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Got it. Got it. So do you have siblings?
No, I'm an only child.
So do you go back and forth to Greece at all? And I
I
mean,
lived there for 5 years, so I don't have to go back. But I'm so busy here that I haven't gone back since 2009.
just so you know, and just this for everybody listening, that here in the tri-state area, and when I say tri-state, like Long Island, New Jersey, New York, I want everybody to know that all Greeks go to Greece during the summer, except me, because we don't have any fun around here anymore. So we don't travel. We don't travel. We just, I don't know what we do exactly, but we don't travel. But next year, I told my husband I'm going to Greece with or without you. So
I might go next year. We'll see. Depends how busy I am.
uh-huh. So what part of Greece is your family from?
Kefalonia.
Ah, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Both sides?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. They must be so proud of you. I mean,
I think
you
so.
are so accomplished. I'm sorry. I see that you have a bit of a cold
Allergies from Florida. I came back and I'm just dying.
allergies here or
I don't know if I from the plane or from Florida because I came here and I haven't stopped now.
yeah. Oh my
It's
God.
sneezing.
Oh my gosh. You got to get some like NyQuil or something.
Depon.
What is it?
Depon in Greece. Depon.
Depon? Is that
Depon, the
like
greatest invention. It's like the Greek pill that everybody takes.
a Greek pill?
Depon. It's the most famous pill in Greece. Depon.
Oh my God,
They use it for everything.
Oh.
Headaches, you name it.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So let me ask you
Acetaminophen. They call it Depon in Greece.
oh, that's so funny. So we have that Sudafed, right? Sudafed, right? That what it is?
I think so, yeah.
Sudafed.
Oh,
I'm not a drug taker. I can't take anything. It puts me right to
lucky.
sleep. So I usually
Do
just
chamomile, but yeah.
oh, that I like. Yeah, 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 of course, for sure. Yeah, chamomile tea, everybody. That's the best. So let me ask you, let me just shift for a second. So we live, God, in such a political climate, right? We got the election coming up. It's insane. People hate each other. Families don't talk to each other.
Right.
Who's fighting, blah, blah. What's your, you don't have to give me your political opinion unless you want to, but what's your take on all that? I mean, I remember growing up, there were political conversations. It wasn't to the degree that it is today.
Very extreme. Yeah.
And of course, we have 9,000 channels to get the news from, as opposed to, back in the day, it was
13.
to whatever, channel 2 and 4 and 7,
3 channels back then.
whatever, and then the newspapers, right? So, and then the radio. But so what's your take on it? Like, because sometimes I feel like, look, if we don't watch the news, they're not going to be in business. So, and I think there's too much news. Like the 24 hours,
It's called disinformation.
Okay, so so what's your opinion on all this? Because and wait, one more other thing. I find it fascinating because my husband does it, my uncles do it, my brother-in-laws do it. They'll have the news on one of the news channels and it'll be on, but after an hour, it's the same thing. It's, you might have a different host, but they're kind of
reading the same script.
Right. And it's just like, okay, can we change this, please? So what's your take on all that? I mean, because it's just so polarizing.
I just stay away from politics. I just turn it off. That's why I balance those out with my content. Who wants to read about all the politics all day? Who's screwing who? Right. So I'm like, let me balance it out with the entertainment stuff. So yeah, everybody's happy.
Right. Did you ever interview any political leaders at all?
I've tried, but it's political getting those interviews. So I'm like, forget it. You have to we'll go through all those channels. They want the questions in advance. They want to see the copy before it runs. So I'm like, you're basically rewriting it. So what's the point?
That's interesting. It's easier to get an interview with Matthew McConaughey than it is for Eric Adams. Right?
I'm sure, because it's like, because they're overly sensitive about everything. They have to have their lawyers look at it. It's just crazy.
Oh my God. So you mentioned something about soap operas. Yeah. So for people that don't know this, at least in the New York area, the comedy clubs have sort of a second business where they have soap opera people come and do these meet and greets. Mm-hmm. And Governors does it, and the guy
all of them do it
in Jersey, Uncle Vinny's or whatever. And listen, I get it, making money. I get it. It's a business. I get it. But what I find interesting is because I thought nobody was watching these shows. I mean, those are shows we used to watch when we came home from school, right. Or when like The Housewife, when women were more home. I mean, that's how they develop, that was the whole reason. And also I thought, again, I'd be completely off, but I thought because now we are just deep into reality programming, because The Housewives, actually, here's a little background. You may or may not know this, but Andy Cohen, who is one of the creators of the whole Housewives franchise, loves soap operas, and he worked at All My Children. So, and he said how he wanted to create his own soap opera, and I'm sure there was some other people in the room, helping him out, but he came from his love of soap operas. And I mean, that franchise, just the Real Housewives, just in and of themselves is insane, just how that big that is. But so these soap opera, and the other thing with soap operas is that there's not that many of them like there used to be. And these are the same people that have been on these shows for decades,
forever.
Decades.
They watched them in Greece and they asked me what's happening now.
So what's your take on that? I mean, because these meet and greets are really, really successful.
I love it. I love the soap operas. The actors are great. The fans are very passionate. The readers are loving my stories. So it's a win-win-win for all.
I can't believe people are still watching it. I mean, listen, that's great. Keeps people.
They're on for 60 years, most of them.
The reason I got my SAG card is because I did background work for As the World Turns. And then I did stand-in work for Susan Lucci.
Ooh.
And I had to join AFTRA. And
Oh,
then a few years later, AFTRA and SAG merged, so I became SAG automatically, which was a gift, like a complete gift, like on so many different levels. So I've been on the set, and I remember it's like a well-oiled machine.
boom, one
It's
take.
not what
Try
you
to do
know,
80 pages of script in one take.
and well, one of the reasons why they went away was they were just too expensive to make, and they weren't, getting the obviously the advertisers or the viewership that they needed to, kind of maintain that. Not to name drop, but I consider myself a friend of Kelly Ripa. So I do know Kelly. She's been around a long, she was on All My Children and
Yeah.
and stuff. And she used to do all those meet and greets. I mean, they also do them. I mean, like again, they do them all over the country. So I find it very interesting that they're still at it. They're still at it. So Susan Lucci's a Garden City girl.
I love her.
Did you get to interview her?
Mhm.
She's a little thing. She's a little tiny thing. So is there anything else you wanna like you can tell us about what you do? And like how do you come up with an idea, to interview people? I mean, there's so many to choose from. So what like does something hit you? How do you do your research? Do you like read
I don't. At this point, I just look at 2 minutes. What am I talking about? I run it on the spot. I'm so good at this now. I can do it in my sleep.
How does one become a journalist? Like if I wanted to write an article, like can I send it to digital journal?
I think it's only like a few of us, so I don't know if they accept. I applied 12 years ago. I don't think they have new writers, but there's always like all these blogs out there. You could start your own blog, then you could write your own article, and then yeah, they'll
Yeah.
publish it.
I did do that in like 2012. I tried doing that and then I stopped. And then I got into the podcast. So, it's obviously
It's
easier.
fun either way. Yeah,
It's not easier talking than it is like writing all that. But
it's
um
amazing.
well, so speaking of writing though, I actually happen to have here. I did write a book, a children's book,
Oh
Special
wow,
People, God, I
nice.
don't know if you can see it, Special People, Godparents in the Orthodox Christian Faith, because I'm a Sunday school teacher.
You're
Uh,
what?
I'm a Sunday school
I
teacher
didn't know that. Wow.
in my spare time, which I have none of. And yeah, I wrote this. I did write a book. I did write a children's book about being a godparent in the Orthodox Christian faith. And when I do my comedy shows, I sell them after. It's on Amazon also,
Good to know.
but
I didn't know. Check it out.
yeah. It's a nice gift, and it's a sweet book, and it's very personal. And I've got like a little
I
personal.
like your joke on the kufeta that you do in your shows.
Yes, I do. I just did that actually, just on Saturday night.
Under the pillow.
I just did that Saturday night. That's a good one. That's a 10. People like that one. But yeah, I was up in Ipswich, Massachusetts. I had done a Greek show there, and they were just a lot of fun. Do you like going to comedy? When do you get a chance to go out? I mean, you live on Long Island still, right?
Yes, it's only at 4.4 miles from my house. I could walk
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, and I'll be posting this, but I'm doing a show at the brokerage in November 14th, with
Nice.
with Greg Kritikos. He's also Greek, he's
Yes,
a
very
comedian,
well.
and Carrie Karavis.
Very, I'm very close with her.
Are you good friends with Carrie?
Very good friends.
I love Carrie. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a show for her in this Saturday night in Crystal Springs. It's just going to be me in Crystal Springs, New Jersey, but it's her, her doing. But yeah, we're calling it the Greek Squad. So, each do like 30
How did
minutes.
the Greek goddess of comedy come about? I'm interviewing you now.
So years ago when I started stand up, I was still working on Wall Street, and I took a class. Well, let me backtrack a second. I really wanted to be an actress, and I took a lot of acting classes. And an acting teacher said that I should do stand-up comedy. She thought I did stand-up comedy, and I said no. And she goes, "You should. You should." No, I'll tell you what she said. She said, "Get some." That's what she said. Get some. So I took a class, whatever. I had my first show. I loved it. So when I started to get into it, I started to go to open mics. And I went to this open mic every whatever it was, Thursday, 5:30. I run from work, and it was at the Comedy Cellar. And there was a host there. His name was Sal Froyo. He had moved to LA years ago, and he used to host the mic. And we get to know him, whatever, and Greek, because I talk about being Greek in my act.
Yeah, I remember that.
He started to, but I like from the very beginning, right? Because that's part of my identity. And I started talking about big family and all this. And he would call, and then when he would call me up, when it was my turn, he started calling me the Greek princess. And I was like, we got the Greek princess coming to the stage, whatever. And then later, and then it started to like evolve, and then it was like sticking. So like I'd see people at the show, like, oh, the Greek princess is here. And yeah, I mean, and I had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. It just evolved. And then we got into like the goddess thing. Then somebody said something about a goddess. It was like Greek goddess. And then a little shortly after that, I had met Basil. And Basil, Jim Andrinos, and another guy, Jimmy Santis, who did Greek song parodies. I don't think he really does it anymore, but he was
I know Vasily, yeah.
Yeah, he was a songwriter, but Basil's still around. Jim Andrinos is still around. And we had put together the Greek gods of comedy. And so I was the Greek goddess. And it stuck. And I laugh every time people call me that, because I look at myself and go, you're like not a goddess. But
it's funny because once I did an article on Carrie and I called her the Empress of Greek American comedy. Then somebody mentioned your name, but like, oh no, my mistake. She's the Greek goddess of comedy. I'm like, I didn't know the difference. I'm like, okay. But Ellen, isn't that it? Wait, isn't that Ellen Karis? And then that same person like, oh no, she was the Greek goddess of comedy. I'm like, oh.
Well, I mean, I will say I've commandeered that name, and I've used it, and it's been me, and it's really been me. So, but Carrie is, I mean, she's Greek, and she's a goddess in her own right, and she is hilarious, and I love her. I love her so much. She's just so funny. So yeah, I mean, listen, there's a few of us around.
And Irene Bremis, I know.
I know Irene. Irene's great. She's a pistol. I've known Irene a long time also. That's the other thing too. Like a lot of us have known each other for a really long time. Yeah. And, even though it's not the kind of job where you see people, once a month or at a conference or whatever, like years go by sometimes. And, and
the pandemic can go by.
That too. But were you affected, emotionally from COVID or
not at all?
Yeah, me neither. It's just, I don't mean to laugh, but it was just like, I mean,
I was too busy working. I didn't have time to be worried about anything.
Right. Yeah, I usually don't, I'm not bragging or putting anybody down, but like, I don't go to a dark place because I have no time to go to a dark place. I just like kept moving and just kept thinking of things to do and figuring out, what my next step was. And I knew at some point it was going to go away. I didn't think it was going to be forever. So, but I am writing a one-woman show about my great grandmother. So I will let you know.
You must.
When that is on its feet, because I would love for you to come when we finally do it. So I've got like a roughy draft. We're still working it out. I'm working with the director, but it's about my Cypriot great grandmother that immigrated from Cyprus. But it's not just for Greeks. I mean, this is for everybody. So
everybody can relate to the Greek stories. They'll be like, oh, this is my story in one way or another. They're going to find similarities. I've noticed that.
Right. So let me ask you, so we're almost out of time. This has been great. You're adorable. I hope you come, if you can come November 14th. That would
get me 2 tickets and I'll be there.
I will. I'll send you the flyer. Do you have a book in you?
I've written a few.
Okay. On what?
One was a chapter called Manifesting Your Dreams.
Uh-huh.
It was a bestseller in Amazon in 3 sections, and it made it in Oprah magazine, so that went well.
Uh-huh.
Then I wrote another chapter a few years ago, and I'm still waiting for it to come out. So on taking your power back, that was like the theme for the book, and I had to write something else about it, so it was nice.
So wait, when you say chapter, so you're able to publish a chapter?
with other people. So yeah, like, it was like a collection of stories. So mine,
Oh,
I would
okay,
have my
got
own
it, got
chapter.
it.
Yeah.
But what about a book specifically about you and your experiences as a journalist and what you've done and the
I'm
people?
still working on it. I don't. I want to. I was gonna do one for my 20,000 article that I did last year, but then I didn't have the time with everything because I do 6 to 10 articles a day, and I'm always on the run. I'm always traveling. I want to, but then the publisher had one set of ideas. I had my own, so it was interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a different story.
Yeah, it's
I had what I think I wanted.
right.
They did their own stuff. I'm like, okay, we'll cross that bridge another time.
Got it. I um I have a book idea. I've got some things written down, but it was like when the pandemic started, I was like, this is great. I'll do my book, I'll do my play, I'll do my movie. Forget about it. I didn't even bake the banana bread, okay? Like I didn't do any of that. But whatever, and I don't know, if it was a year ago or a while ago, I was like, you know what? It was actually a comic friend of mine. I'm like, I'm trying to write this, I'm trying to write that. He goes, Ellen, pick one and go with it. You can't do all those things. Plus we're always looking for gigs, as a
Look,
comedian.
one day I sat down and I wrote 4% of my book in one sitting. I'm like, oh, if they want 60,000 words, here's already 4% of it. So
Yeah.
in one neat sitting. So I could do that in like, I guess, a month or two. I could write it if I want to, but then I know it's going to take 2 years for it to be published. It's a long process. That's why I hate books.
Right.
It takes forever for them to be released. The publisher, then they edit and this and that. I'm like,
Right.
it's annoying.
But what about if you self-publish?
Or that I could do that, but I feel like do that. The articles on my diaries every day.
Self-publish. Right. But my book is self-published. My
Nice.
children, I just did that, via Amazon. But so listen, everybody. Markos Papadatos, Papadatos. I love saying your name. It's so
You too,
sexy.
Ellen Karis. What
Markos
is that? A Karis short for something?
Papadatos. Probably.
Oh,
I haven't done the research, but
Karayanis, Kari
babe,
Dimo.
I don't know. Like I did, but it would we got there was a lot of roadblocks. So I could never really kind of find out, but I will. I will do my investigative journalism and I will find out.
Posted.
You are on digitaljournal.com
Mhm.
and check out, you got tons of articles, and I'm going to bookmark your website as well.
Mhm.
And you're a delight. I love your photos. Are you open to the public to follow you on Facebook?
Yeah, the Instagram, the Power Journalist.
Oh, Power Journalist on Instagram. Oh, okay, I have to follow you
The
there.
Power Journalist, yeah.
I just love it. I don't know. I feel like I'm interviewing the celebrities with you. I feel like I'm there with you. That's
That's
like,
my whole point. When I write something, I want them to get to know them like they're there.
yeah,
Like when I write a review of a concert or a comedy, so I want them to feel like they're sitting there with me.
yeah, yeah.
That's why I'm so descriptive. I want you to feel like you're there.
You are incredibly talented, incredibly impressive. I'm really glad you did this. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Continued success. Hope to see you in
Sorry
the.
for my allergies. I'm congested, but I was like,
I know. Thank you so much. You're suffering through. Go have some hot water with lemon too. That's all.
it's chamomile with Nelly, with honey.
Yes,
Lemoni.
absolutely. Did you go to Greek school at all?
I lived in Greece for 5 years, so that was my Greek
That
school.
was your Greek school. Good for you.
I only speak Greek at home, so yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So you didn't need to go to Greek school.
No.
No, your Greek is spectacular. Well, thank you again, Markos.
Ευχαριστώ
Πάρα
πολύ.
πολύ. Χάρηκα. Thank you so much, everybody. I am just hang on one second. And I'm Ellen Karis, Greek chick comic on Instagram, Ellen Karis Greek Goddess of Comedy on Facebook. EllenKaris.com is my website. And we got all these podcasts, this great podcast, the ones I've done for 9 years. So, and as we know, I'm available for bar mitzvahs, macarias, showers, divorce parties, whatever you need. Christmas is coming up, holiday parties.
Dance parties.
I'm a kids part. I'm just, yeah, but kids, I don't know. I got to bring like, you got to bring the balloon guy with you.
Oh.
But anyway, I'm hilarious.
Graduations.
I do it all. So check out my schedule. I have a bunch of shows coming up, which is really exciting. Thank you very much. Till next time. Bye.